All right, so I'm Joe Barton, and I teach science at Kirkwood High School. And Amy sent me an email and asked me what the title was, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about with the title, so I just wanted to say something nice. So, and it's true, I do work with amazing people, and I count all of you and my students and all of the people that are in the schools. And I guess I'm not entirely comfortable with this, and I'm not. It's not so much because I'm nervous. It's because I feel like I would rather talk with you than to you. So I kind of see this as maybe starting a conversation, and I would love to continue this conversation. And this is out of my comfort zone, but I didn't really write anything down because I don't usually script conversations or title them actually. But so we're just going to see where this goes. And so I was thinking about where to start. And I was thinking if probably all of you are here with a lot on your mind, and there's a lot going on in school and a lot of things like that. And so what I thought that I would start with is, go ahead. So these two questions right here. And so I want to give you a minute, which is going to seem like a long time, to think about these questions, or not, or just think about whatever you want. But sometimes we just need a minute to sort of clear our minds and think. So I'm going to watch the clock and go ahead and just think. So maybe we'll round up a little bit. But so I asked a lot of people about this at different times, kind of when I was thinking about this talk, and there's kind of a theme among our answers. And I thought maybe I would share mine, but I think probably most of yours kind of go along these same lines. So go ahead. When I think about why I became a teacher, one more. This picture I think kind of sums up why I became a teacher. Maybe for a lot of you who are around the same age. So I wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to make a difference. And I wanted to be creative and exciting and engaging. And I wanted a job that had a lot of me in it. And when I think about why I'm still, and I like science. I guess I should add that too. And when I think about why I'm still a teacher, those things are still true. But when I think about why I go back every year, it's because I've realized I really enjoy, and I get a lot of energy out of seeing what kids do when I get out of their way. In those situations where I don't know what's going to happen next. So I feel like, and a lot of people answered this question this way, and maybe you did too, that there's this shift from when you start teaching, it's kind of about you and what you're going to do, and as you teach longer, you realize maybe it's more and more about the kids and what the kids are going to do. So as I reflected on this kind of transition, and I thought about all the conversations I had with people, and TED Talks, and blogs that I read, and this 10 years long conversation that Jen and I have about teaching and learning while we try to raise a family, I kind of realized I sort of came to this conclusion, if you go ahead. And the conclusion I came to, I think one more, is that this is an amazing time to be a teacher. And then upon further reflection and discussion with Jen, I kind of qualified that statement with this. Go ahead. Whoops. Sorry. Yeah, keep going. It's still there.
Sorry.
That's all right. There we go. Because it is, I honestly believe that it is an amazing time to be a teacher. But it's also, there's a frustration that I feel. And I think I'm not alone. And I think that the job is harder maybe than it ever has been before. So I want to talk about why I think it's an amazing time to be a teacher, but I also want to talk about the frustration. So go ahead. When I think about why it's an amazing time to be a teacher, I started with this question that I think we ask ourselves a lot now than maybe we didn't before, and that's why. So why are we doing the things we're doing, and why am I teaching in this way, and why do I want students to know this? And why have I chosen to assess them this way, and why am I teaching this thing this way, and why did I make that quiz 13 points? So, there's all of these questions that we ask ourselves, and all of those are kind of rooted in things like differentiated instruction and awareness that kids learn at different ways and at different rates. And that maybe, assessment shouldn't be just one big thing at the end, that it should be an ongoing conversation. And this idea that maybe one letter at the end of a certain time period isn't the best way to represent the way what students know, and that points might not be the best thing to motivate or measure what they're doing. So I think, and I don't think we have all the answers to these questions, but I think we're at a time in education where we ask ourselves a lot of questions about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So then the next thing that I thought about is creativity. And I think creativity is taken on a much bigger role than it ever has before in education. I think it used to be relegated to art or music and things like that, and it's still there, but I think creativity has kind of branched out from there, and it's starting to really move into all of the other things that we do. So go ahead. I'm sure you remember this version of Bloom's taxonomy, where we would spend afternoons picking verbs. Right? So we'd start with, I want kids to know Newton's first law. And then somebody would say, well, know is kind of a low-level verb. Can we go with, synthesize Newton's first law or something like that? But this has changed, and there's kind of a new way of representing this, which is this, right? And so, it's not that the bottom of this pyramid is bad. There's things that we want kids to know and to be able to do. But the goal of school, I think, has moved up to this idea of creating, to take that thing that you know and do, and do something new with it. And in fact, maybe that's the goal of life, right? That there's something unique, this unique combination of what you can do and what you like to do and what you know, that you can do something that nobody else can do. And it doesn't have to be a painting. It can be, but it can be an experience or a structure or a thing of whatever. And so one more. Kind of along these lines, there's a group that started at Kaiser this year. It's called the Kaiser Makers. And they meet, and it's unstructured, undirected learning, and they just build things or take things apart. And at both of the last meetings, there has been no room for more people. That people just, there's this yearning to create and to have this unstructured, open time to use the things that you know. And then one more. The thing the thing I added then was technology. So, and I feel like that's a little bit of a cliche, that when we think about technology, really an overhead projector is technology. It's just not new technology. So I kind of changed that to I think about the way we access information, the way we collaborate. So Google turned 15 this year, and I've been teaching for 16 years. And I think about that, I was thinking about I had 1 year before everything about how we access information and share and find things out started to really change, and has not stopped changing since. This is a little screencast of some kids working on a Prezi, and each one of those icons is a group of kids, and they're moving around and checking out what other kids are doing in this sort of landscape PowerPoint. One more. I put TED Talks on here. It's just sort of a representation of the access we have to experts and thinkers about all kinds of things, that I can watch the smartest person in whatever field talk about the thing that they know and they love. One more. This picture here, maybe a little more meaningful for the high school teachers. Your initial reaction is put that phone away, right? But what we realize, what I think we need to realize, is that's not a phone. The last thing that thing is a phone, right? That's how this student communicates with everybody. So and it's annoying and it's aggravating, and you want the kid to listen to you and be here in this moment. But at the same time, she might be talking to somebody in an English class, right? So the walls to my classroom are not barriers to communication anywhere. And then one more, I think, and then I was thinking about Twitter, and I'm kind of new to Twitter. And we sort of had them going. I think they petered off as the year goes on, but there's these Tuesday night Twitter chats where teachers would kind of get on and share things that they're doing. And it was funny because I have some students who follow me, because I sometimes tweet little astronomy things. And I came in on a Wednesday, and this kid's like, you were tweeting some interesting stuff about homework last night. And I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot that Twitter does that. But it's this all of a sudden these two, we're sort of separate parts of my life where I talk to other teachers about, wouldn't be a great way to, and my kids are not part of those conversations. Kids who have graduated, will send me a little tweet. Hey, here's this thing on the board, and I remember learning this in your class and stuff like that. So, so really I think this is an amazing time to be a teacher, not because we have all these answers, but because we really think about what we're doing, and we think about sort of the access we have to information and the way we can communicate. And so I mean, I could go on with details and examples, but I kind of want to get to that second part, I think one more. It's frustrating and it's challenging, right? So, and it's hard work, maybe harder than it ever has been before, but I don't think that's really the problem. I mean, we're preaching to the choir here. It's a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock and we're here talking about teaching. So obviously we don't mind working hard. And then there's frustration, you know, like the copier's jammed, or there's a new grade book, that kind of frustration. And it's there, and it's real, but it's going to go away, right? And you know what? There's going to be another copier that jams or another new thing that we kind of have to get used to. So there's that kind of frustration that we run into. But when I think about frustration, I feel like I'm thinking about the frustration of like there's a greatness that's happening all across this district. And the things that Adam's doing with what grade? Fourth graders, right? At the high school, it's funny because my son goes to first grade here. He sits on an exercise ball, right? And at the high school, I actually rearranged my room so the students are all sitting at lab tables facing each other. And I really had this, it's like, but they're only looking at each other. And you think about like the things that kids are doing in this district in all of these little pockets are so amazing. I teach seniors. And so I'm like I get to see sort of the end result of all of our collective efforts, and they are amazing kids. They're extremely smart, and they love to talk about things, and they have strong senses of wonder. And so all of this stuff is happening, but I feel like we're missing out on this kind of collective greatness, kind of this moving to whatever's next in education. And that's the thing that I feel like is kind of frustrating. I don't remember what slide's next. Let's go to the next slide. I forget what I was going to say. Aha, right. This is the thing that's frustrating to me. Like I thought about this. I was thinking, because at first I tried to list this stuff off, and then it sounded like kind of a list of complaints. Like, and another thing. I don't have whatever, right? So I thought, here's how I was thinking about this frustration. If you could build a time machine, and you could take a teacher from 50 years ago and transport them to our schools now, and show them around, they would be probably completely baffled by the way we talk about and with students. And they would probably be shocked that we're not diagramming sentences or having them memorize what symbols there are on the periodic table. And they would be mystified by our technology, right? But they would get school. It would make perfect sense to them that there's a kid who's 10, and so they're in 4th grade and they're learning fractions. And there's a kid who's 7, there's 24 17-year-olds who start learning biology when a bell rings, and then they stop learning biology and go to 24 different places when the next bell rings. And this sort of linear nature we have to school, where there's these segregations between grade levels and disciplines and schools that are so rigidly held, that would make sense to them. And I think that, when I think about what I'm frustrated by, it's that, I don't want to say we've done everything we can do in our classrooms, but we're running into a wall that is the infrastructure of school. And I don't know what it looks like on the other side, but I think that we have these tools and we have the potential to become whatever school can become, and it can't stay what it is, right? I mean, that girl with the phone has access to more physics and astronomy than I'll ever know, and she can find it faster than I'll ever remember it. So I don't have to be the person. When I started 16 years ago, I stood in front of a room, and I was the only person in that room who knew physics, and it was me or the book, right? And my job, I feel like, was to make it interesting and engaging and make them want to learn it. Now, I stand in front of a room with kids who have access to all of that information, and I think we need to really rethink the way we think about school, the way we've structured things. So that's what frustrates me. Go ahead to the next slide. Let's see what's going to happen next. But I have hope, right? The fact that we're here gives me hope that it's going to happen, right? That school has to change because of the way things are. So when I think about my seniors and what they can do and the things that you guys are doing in your classrooms, that gives me hope. When I think about Ken Robinson's TED Talk, is that his last name? Robinson? Okay. I think the thing about like you see something like that and you can't unsee it. Once you've been exposed to that idea, and I think that it's sort of frustrating. It's like I can't be satisfied with the way that I've been doing things. Although I do, one frustration is myself. When it gets hard, you go back to that mode, like, okay, let me just transfer some knowledge to you, right? Because that's what this whole system is designed for. So I was going to end with kind of a challenge. Let's go to the next. I think I went back to that first slide. There we go. Because I really do think this is an amazing time to be a teacher, and I think that we're all here because we're thinking about how we can be better at this. And I think we have to think beyond our classrooms. So, I'm probably going to teach for another 15 years. I'm probably halfway through my career, and I can spend those next 15 years getting incrementally better at what I do. I can make things, I can figure out a better way to teach this, and a better way to run this, and a better way to hone this thing, and really kind of make my classroom the ultimate classroom that I can make it. And then I'll retire, and that'll be gone, right? It'll go with those kids maybe, but that's kind of it. The way we get better though now, I think, is to sort of take, so to think it's not my classroom, and these aren't my kids this year, and they're going to be your kids next year, but I'll have new kids that are my kids. I think the way we get better is to think collectively about what sort of think collectively that we're all responsible for all of these kids. So they're not Kaiser's kids, and they're not the high school's kids. The students in your classroom are my students too, just not yet. So I want to put this, like I said, maybe this is the beginning of a conversation that I would love to have with anybody else who wants to have this conversation. And so I'm thankful to the K-Talks team for giving me a chance to talk about it. And Carrie and Jen definitely for helping me kind of formulate what I was thinking about this. And I think that's it. So I don't know what else to add, unless anybody has anything to add.